Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're looking at this really quite bold idea from our source material, the idea that we're stepping into an age where, well, anyone can effectively live like a king.
Yeah, and that phrase itself is really interesting because historically, living like a king, that meant total control, didn't it? Exclusive access, capital, infrastructure, influence, things others just couldn't get near. It was all about centralized power.
Exactly. So it feels like a paradox. We talk about decentralization, but the outcome described is this kind of, well, kingly power. The argument seems to be that technology has flipped the script on what that power means.
Right. It's not about your title or what you inherited. It's about having, and I think this is the quote, tools once reserved for empires right in your pocket.
Okay. So how does that work? How do we get from that old model, the monopoly, to this sort of radical access for everyone?
Well, that's what we're going to dive into today. The source material maps out this new age of the builder.
Mm-hmm.
And it really hinges on a few key technologies: converging AI, blockchain, open digital finance, and crucially, how this shifts the focus away from just owning things towards what you can actually create.
Right. Let's unpack that then. If technology is breaking down these old limits on, human potential, what are these specific technologies? The sources seem to highlight three working together, a kind of triad.
That's it. That triad is really the engine here. First up, you've got AI, artificial intelligence. This gives individuals capabilities that can scale massively. It's like the ultimate force multiplier for one person or a small team.
Okay, AI as a force multiplier. What's the second part?
Second is blockchain. And this is fundamental because it changes how we handle trust. It's not just about making trust secure. It kind of removes the need for those traditional middlemen, those trusted third parties altogether.
Interesting. So AI for scale, blockchain for trust, and the third element.
The third piece is open digital finance. Yeah, and this is what gives people access to capital, access to complex financial tools that were, frankly, walled off before. So if AI gives you the power to build and blockchain gives you the verifiable trust layer, open digital finance gives your creations fuel, access to liquidity, global transactions. No more gatekeepers. That's where the power dynamic really shifts.
It sounds incredible. This era of limitless possibility, as the source puts it. But, history suggests that power and wealth tend to concentrate. Is there a risk these amazing decentralized tools just end up creating a new kind of digital elite? The first movers, the richest builders?
That's a really fair question. And the source does address it, actually. It argues that the nature of the people driving this, the builders, is different. They're described as innovators, creators, dreamers, and they operate using three key pillars. It mentions code, community, and consciousness.
Okay, code and community, that makes sense. You need the tech skills, you need the network effect, people using what you build. But consciousness, that sounds a bit philosophical for a tech discussion. What do they mean by that?
It's less philosophical, I think, and more about intention, purpose. In this context, consciousness seems to point towards the ethics baked into the system, the governance, the self-awareness of the potential impact. Because if these tools give you, essentially, empire-level power,
right,
then the only real check left is the builder's own internal compass, their consciousness. That's what decides if you build something open and inclusive, or just another walled garden, another digital kingdom.
That raises the stakes considerably. Okay, so we have these incredibly powerful tools, AI, blockchain, open in finance. But how do you stop that power coalescing again, especially when things get big and serious? This is where the source brings in the idea of digital rails, isn't it?
Precisely. Yeah, you can't run global finance or, serious commerce on shaky foundations. You need infrastructure. And the source specifically mentions players like Metallicus and the XPR Network. They're described as building these core digital rails. Think of it like everyone might be a sovereign node, like their own little hub, but they still need reliable roads to connect and transact on.
So for a builder listening, someone wanting to create something on this, what do these rails actually do for them? Is it just about speed?
Speed is part of it, sure, but it's more fundamental. It's about bridging the gap between the old world of finance and regulation and this new decentralized world. So this infrastructure isn't just built to be secure and open. It's also built to be compliant.
Compliant. Okay, so things like KYC, AML.
Exactly. Know your customer, anti-money laundering. These kinds of regulatory requirements can be built into the decentralized systems running on these rails. That's absolutely essential if you want large-scale applications like, say, the decentralized banking examples mentioned, to operate credibly and legally.
Got it. So the rails provide legitimacy, stability, scalability. allowing these sovereign nodes, these builders, to do serious work without it just being the Wild West.
That's a good way to put it, yeah. It allows the age of the builder to mature beyond just experimental projects. It provides the stable base needed for digital systems that can first mirror and then potentially, surpass traditional finance.
Which brings us to what feels like the core philosophical shift in the source material. Traditionally, power was measured by ownership. Who owns the land, the factories, the resources? But the source claims this new era isn't fundamentally about ownership anymore. So, if not ownership, what is the focus?
The focus shifts entirely. It shifts to what you create. The material presents this idea of every individual being a sovereign node in the network. What that means, practically for you listening, is that your digital identity, your assets, your ability to govern your interactions, it all resides with you, not locked up in some central platform.
So value comes from output, from participation.
Exactly. Your value stems less from what you hoard and more from what you contribute, your creative output.
And the source uses a brilliant, maybe slightly quirky example to make this concrete, the AI robot kitty.
Yes. It's actually a perfect illustration. Why a robot cat?
Yeah.
Because its value is entirely generated. It's digital, it's creative. It's defined as an AI companion, right? So immediately you see that blend of advanced tech, the AI.
The scalability.
Applied to something purely imaginative, something community-focused even.
And its origin story, as described, ties everything together. It was born from imagination.
Right.
Built on XPR Network, powered by Metallicus. So you see the whole stack, the creative idea, the secure rails, the underlying tech engine.
It shows that the kind of power that maybe once built, massive dams or commanded armies is now being channeled into creating these intricate, interactive, digital beings almost. We've gone from building physical empires to potentially building digital life. It proves the tools aren't just for dry financial systems, they're for pure creation too.
It really connects the dots, doesn't it? Links the abstract ideas,
Yeah.
the sovereign nodes, the compliant rails, the AI power to something tangible you can picture. You can really see that shift from what do you own to what can you imagine and build.
And the implication is profound. The old scarcities, scarce capital, scarce access, scarce infrastructure. The source argues technology has largely solved those. The main scarcity left is the scarcity of valuable, meaningful creation.
Okay, so let's wrap up this deep dive. The source really leaves you, the listener, with a direct challenge. If everyone is a sovereign node, if abundance is increasingly accessible, the question becomes unavoidable. What will you build?
And that question ties it all back. Technology, the AI, the open finance, the infrastructure has effectively handed over the tools. Tools with power once held only by empires. The external limits, the physical constraints, they're dissolving. What's left are the internal limits of the builder.
And we identified those internal aspects earlier. Code, community, and consciousness. Technology helps with the code. Networks help build the community. So here's a final thought for you to consider building on that. If those external barriers are falling away, which of those three elements, code, community, or consciousness, do you think will be the hardest for individual builders to truly master?
And maybe, why will mastering that specific element be the deciding factor? The factor that determines whether what you build genuinely contributes to the next civilization, or just ends up replicating the centralized patterns of the past?
Something to think about as you navigate this emerging age of the builder.